Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for UFC fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and today I'll be getting you ready for the upcoming UFC fight. Here at FightingStats.com, we have exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else. We can tell you how often a fighter throws that left hook or that right jab in southpaw, how often they move backwards, or how often they throw kicks. We have all of that information, but that is not all. In this series, I'll be watching tape and I'll give you my real-time analysis on how the fight's going to go. I'm going to watch for fighter strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies to give you my prediction on how I think the fight is going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we have a very special treat for you. We are breaking down the UFC 303 main event between the notorious Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. Now, this fight has been in the books for a while. McGregor making his return to the UFC. Chandler been waiting on the shelf for a while as well for his opportunity to fight McGregor. So we're going to break this fight down in detail. If you don't know, I'm Artsy. I give the most detailed breakdowns anywhere that you can find. What I like to do is like to start through all of the fighting stats. I go through all the details. We have exclusive stats here at Fighting Stats, so I'll go over some of the tendencies, show you what we have here. Then I like to go over my predictions on sort of how I see the fight going. I've watched all of the fight tape on Michael Chandler. We watched all the fight tape on Conor McGregor. So I'll give you my prediction on how I see the fight going, and then I'll get into my best bets. I'll assign a percentage to each of the fight outcomes. It'll help us determine which side is the value side, and we use Kelly criterion to determine how much to bet on each prop. So you don't want to miss it. A lot of content coming your way. Strap yourself in. All right, so starting out here, we're going to start with the tail of the tape here. I've put Conor McGregor here on the blue side. Michael Chandler going to be on the red side. In terms of physicals here, Michael Chandler only going to be 2 years older. Conor McGregor going to be 1 inch taller and going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. Again, they used to fight at 155. This fight happening at 170. Conor McGregor does have some experience at 170. We'll get into the breakdown shortly. So Conor McGregor in his UFC career going to be 10-4. Of those 10 wins, 80% going to be by knockout, 10% going to be by decision. 4 losses in the UFC, 25% by KO, 5% by 50% by submission. I do believe that there's a no contest in there, messing up some of those numbers. On the Chandler side, 2-3 in the UFC, 100% of his wins by KO, and his losses are split between KO, submission, and decision there. Moving down here, we're going to go into some of the high-level matchups here. We'll go into the detailed stuff actually here. So now let's go over to the detailed striking. This is our high-level tail of the tape, but I'll go into the details. I'll give you all the numbers that you need to know here. So this is the offensive striking. We're going to start with the blue offensive striking for Conor McGregor. So 77% of Conor McGregor's strikes landed going to be at a distance, 10% going to be in the clinch, and 13% going to be on the ground. In terms of his target breakdown, he goes to the head 79% of the time, 13% towards the body, and 8% towards the legs. Striking accuracy pretty good overall. 44% head strike accuracy, 65% to the body, and 79% leg strike accuracy. In terms of average strikes thrown by round, decent output as well. Averages 46 strikes thrown in round number 1, 41 in 2, 39 in round number 3, and 47 in round number 4, 37 in round number 5. And then strikes landed actually trends upwards, landing 21, 20, 24, 26, and 24. So an average about 22 strikes landed per round there. He does have 13 knockdowns in the UFC, 8 of them coming in round number 1, 5 of them coming in round number 2. So decent early numbers there for Conor McGregor. And then in terms of his target breakdown there, you can see his head strikes landing. They actually increase as the fight goes on, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 as the rounds go on there. Leg strikes tend to hover around 3 per round, and then the body spikes up a little bit there. So We did watch the most recent fights there against Dustin Poirier. Wanted to talk about some of the knockdowns there. So he knocked down Donald Cerrone, obviously, and that fight knocked down Eddie Alvarez 3 times in that fight. Knocked down Nate Diaz 3 times in their second fight there as well. And then before that, knocked down Jose Aldo to win the 145-pound belt there. Overall, his striking accuracy, we talked about 77% distance, 53% significant strike accuracy for Conor McGregor. And then I wanted to highlight some of these leg kicks because it goes off and on here. One of the ones that really surprised me was this Nate Diaz fight. So he fights Nate Diaz that first time, ends up losing and getting choked out in the second round. Definitely, it was his first fight at 170 for Conor McGregor. Tended to slow down there into the second round, and then Nate Diaz ended up clipping him a couple of times. Conor McGregor shoots for a takedown, and then Nate Diaz eventually grapples, gets his back, and chokes him out. So then Nate Diaz comes in for the rematch against Conor McGregor. That is a 5-round fight. And then Conor McGregor all of a sudden starts throwing leg kicks. And he lands 17 of 19 leg kicks in round number 1 against Diaz, 10 of 11 in round number 2. Round 3 goes 5 for 6, and then 5 for 5 in round number 4. And then no really other fight. So that one was an anomaly because he went to the leg kicks early and often. Nate Diaz does have a tendency to not be able to deal with the leg kicks too well. But any other fight before that, really, the only time he fought was Max Holloway. He went to the legs 9 of 15 in round number 1, and then 4 of 6. Otherwise, not a big leg kicker. Dennis Seaver, Chad Mendez. Khabib obviously can't throw a number of kicks there, but even against Dustin Poirier, 8 for 8 in leg kicks there. So definitely a path to victory for McGregor, throwing some leg kicks. I'm wondering if that's going to be part of the game plan here. Moving on to defensive striking. So this defensive striking for Conor McGregor, 63% of the strikes landed against going to be at a distance, 18% in the clinch, and 19% of strikes landed against going to be on the ground. I think a lot of that going to be from Khabib. Target breakdown against, 79% of the strikes absorbed against going to be towards the head, 12% to the body, and 10% towards the leg. Defensive head strike accuracy, not great at 41%, 65 body defense, and decent leg kick accuracy at 66% leg kick accuracy there. In terms of strikes absorbed by round, is round number 1 being McGregor's best round there at 14, and then it spikes up to 24 strikes absorbed in round 2, 22 in rounds 3 and 4, and then drops to 19 in round number 5. I've only been knocked down once, and that was in round number 2. That was against Dustin Poirier there in round number 2. So decent chin from McGregor there. Strikes absorbed does pop up again. Round number 1 being his best round, and then round 2 and 3 seems to be absorbing the most head strikes in those rounds there. Against looking at some leg kick numbers here, Dustin Poirier went to the leg kicks early in that fight. Going 9 of 11 in round number 1 in that first fight, 9 of 10 in round number 2 in that second fight there. And then big leg kicks here. Dennis Seaver going back to 2015 there. So hasn't seen a ton of leg kicks. Nate Diaz went 8 of 13, but not a ton of power behind those leg kicks there. Bringing over to Michael Chandler. Let's go over to the Michael Chandler offensive striking. 74% of his strikes landed going to be at a distance, only 3% in the clinch, but 24 strikes going to be landed on the ground. Some decent ground and pound numbers for Michael Chandler. In terms of target breakdown, goes to the head at 79% of the time, goes to the body at 16% of the time, and then 5% towards the leg. Not a huge leg kicker for Michael Chandler as well. In terms of overall offensive striking, decent head strike numbers at 38% head strike accuracy, 71% towards the body, and 88% towards the leg, but again, doesn't go to the legs too often. Average strikes thrown by round, some decent big numbers here for Michael Chandler. 59 strikes attempted in round number 1, landing 29 of them in round number 1, and then it drops off a little bit to round number 2, where he's only averaging 25 strikes thrown, 11 landed, and then pops up in round number 3 to 42 strikes thrown in round 3, 16 landed there. Only does have 2 knockdowns in the UFC, one coming in round number 1, one coming in around number 1 against Dan Hooker, and then the other one was round 2 against Tony Ferguson there. That one was the head kick there. So decent numbers here for Michael Chandler. Again, not a huge leg kicker. 1 of 3 against Dustin Poirier. Landed 6 of 6 against Tony Ferguson in round number 1. 7 of 7 against Justin Gaethje. But overall, again, not a huge leg kicker. Most of the time, is going to be at a distance. Looking at some of these ground strike numbers against landed 16 of 21 against Poirier on the ground, 17 of 29 against Charles Oliveira on the ground, 10 of 13 against Dan Hooker on the ground. So he is active with his ground and pound. Defensive striking. So these numbers are pretty interesting here for Michael Chandler. 83% of the strikes absorbed going to be at a distance for Chandler, 5% in the clinch, and 11% on the ground. Whereas his target breakdown allowed 79% of the strikes absorbed going to be towards the head, 7% towards the body, and 14% towards the legs. Defensive head strike accuracy, 53%. Not great for Michael Chandler. He has known to be taken somewhat of a beating. So 53% of the strikes landed towards the head, or sorry, thrown towards the head are landing against Chandler. 48 towards the body and 86% leg kick accuracy there. In terms of strikes absorbed by rounds, it looks like he absorbs 21 in round number 1, 14 in round number 2, and spikes up to 23 in round number 3. Has been knocked down 3 times there, all of them in round number 2. Charles Oliveira knocked him down twice in round number 2. Justin Gaethje also knocked him down in round number 2 there. So and again, he's seen a couple of leg kicks. Justin Gaethje being the biggest leg kicker of them all, obviously, going 10 of 12 for leg kicks, 7 of 7, and 9 of 9 in round number 3 there. So yeah, I think the fight takes place mainly on the feet, but we'll touch on the defensive grappling. If anything, I think it's going to be Chandler looking for the takedowns. Conor McGregor showing some decent takedown defense, but let's get into the numbers here. Offensive grappling for Mr. Conor McGregor. Overall in his UFC career, let's see, he's only attempted 9 takedowns, landed 5 of them. 5 of those takedowns, actually all of the 5 landed there against Max Holloway in 2013, landed 1 of 1 in round number 2. And then 3 of 3 in round number 3. That was the last time he took anybody down. Actually, he landed a takedown against Diego Brandao in 2014. But ever since then, mainly chose to stay on the feet. Attempted one against Nate Diaz. Again, another one against Nate Diaz against Dustin Poirier. But they're half-ass takedown attempts. Not really looking to get the fight down to the ground. So, yeah, against a fellow striker, Max Holloway makes sense. But again, that's early in his career. That was over 11 years ago there. So let's go over to the defensive grappling. If anybody's going to shoot a takedown, I think it's going to be Chandler. So let's go look into the takedown defense of Mr. McGregor. Overall in his career, he's seen 33 takedown attempts against. He's only allowed 11 of them, so 33% takedown defense, or 66%, sort of. Actually, and it looked pretty impressive against Khabib. I know Dustin Poirier got him down in both of those fights, once in round number 1, and then Khabib got him down in round 1, round 2, and round 4, but he did pretty good in that fight. Decent showing with his takedown defense, but again, that was in 2018, so a lot of time has passed since the Khabib fights. Really not really sure what he's going to look like, but overall, in terms of the numbers, decent takedown defense for Conor McGregor. In terms of the offensive grappling for Michael Chandler, he's been pretty explosive. He does have that wrestling background, but he doesn't tend to go for it a lot. Overall, in his UFC career, has attempted 14 takedowns, only successful in 5 of them. Did get Dustin Poirier down twice in that round number 1, once in round number 2 there in his last fight there. So he has been attacking some takedowns, 7 takedown attempts against Dustin Poirier. If he's going to attempt them against Dustin Poirier, I would expect to see them against Conor McGregor as well. And then let's touch on the red defensive grappling. Just overall, Michael Chandler's only seen 2 takedown takedown attempts against. One of them had been successful, and both of that was against Charles Oliveira. So pretty difficult to take down, but really nobody has really tried here. All right, moving on to the fighting stats. So these are exclusive stats here. We look at Conor McGregor. Overall, his fight tape, his breakdowns here. 40% of his fight tape that we watch is going to be standing. 43% of the fight tape, again, is going to be on the ground. But again, most of that is including the Khabib fight. 9% going to be defending the takedown against, most again, going to be Khabib. And then 3% time in the clinch there overall. So when he is on the bottom for Conor McGregor, you can see here 61% I have north-south, 39% inside control. Sorry, that's top control. Not a ton of top control there. When he is on the bottom there, you can see most of the time 51% in half guard, 29% of the time he's going to be in back mount, 12% in side control, 3% in north-south there, and 5% in full guard. So giving up a lot of time in half guard. Again, that was mostly to Khabib, though. Khabib has a decent guard pass as well. Overall, for Michael Chandler, his fight time overall, 55% of his fight time was standing, 42% of that was on the ground, and then 1% is in the clinch and attacking takedowns. When Michael Chandler is on top on the ground, look at this: 51% of his top time going to be in full guard, 44% going to be in back mount there, and only 5% in half guard. Rarely does he get to full mount, not in the fight tape that we watched. And then when he's on bottom, I'm not going to touch on the bottom because I don't really see him on the bottom too much. So that's his breakdown. I think if Chandler is going to get some top time, he'll probably spend it in full guard, maybe get back mount there. Let's move over to the striking tendencies here. So again, here at Fighting Stats, we track the types of strikes thrown by fighters, their tendencies to kick, things like that. So overall for Conor McGregor, I have 66% of his strikes going to be single strikes, so either single jabs, single twos, single kicks, things like that. He has a 13% 1-2 rate. He does like to go to the 1-2. He has a 16% jab rate there and 18% cross. So for him, he's going to stand southpaw, so his cross is going to be that left hand. He loves throwing that left hand there. If you go down to his striking tendencies here, his most thrown weapon going to be that single two, that left straight there, and then 60% going to be his jab. He does go the rear high kick 14% of the time, and then again he'll throw the 1-2 13% of the time, and then that rear low kick 11% of the time, and then double jabs, 2-1-2s, things like that. So definitely going to be a big left hand there for Conor McGregor. Going over to the Chandler side, again, 43% of his strikes going to be single strikes. So a little bit more combos coming from the Chandler side. Going to throw a 1-2 rate of 6%, jab rate of 14%. His cross going to be 14% as well. 21% of his strikes going to include some kind of kick there. So for Chandler here, double jab is his most used weapon at 14%, tied with his single jab at 14%, and then 14% with his two there. So overall there it's 52% is the 1-1 or the 1-2 straight punches there. He does go rear leg kick 9% of the time, and the 1-2 6% of the time there as well. So decent numbers there. A lot of straight punches for both guys coming down the middle. Not a ton of hooks, things like that. So those are the numbers. Those are the striking tendencies. Let's get into my prediction on how I see the fight going. Again, we watched all the Conor McGregor fight tape. We've watched all of the Michael Chandler fight tape. First thing off the bat with the Conor McGregor one, because that's fresh in my mind. Conor McGregor going to open up southpaw. He's going to be mainly a southpaw fighter. Now, a lot of time has gone through a lot of this time, so I don't know if he's made some adjustments, but in his fight tape, what we've seen is he likes to run, take the center of the cage, basically plant his flag in the center and saying, "This is my octagon," forces the opponent to take the outside of the cage. Then from the outside of the cage, he does keep a sort of a wide stance, a long base there. Is susceptible to the leg kicks because he has such a wide base, but he is looking to land his left hand. So what we'll see is he'll stand outside in kicking range. He'll try to bait you a little bit with leaning the head forward a little bit. When you throw the jab, he does have a tendency to dip over to the right side. We saw him dip over to the right side, and most of the times he's trying to time the jab with his left straight. So he'll stand southpaw. As soon as you throw the jab, he's dipping over to the right so that he can throw his left straight down the middle. Or what he'll like to do is he'll like to step back and then throw the left hand. That's what he did against Jose Aldo there. Did it a bunch in his other fights there. But those are his main two weapons: is the left straight counter or the left step back counter left there as well. He does throw a variety of kicks. Again, against a southpaw Nate Diaz, he went outside low kick a bunch. And then when he's fighting conventional fighters, he doesn't go to the kick too often. But he did have some wheel kicks in there, a couple of flashy kicks there again. Again, he's coming off of breaking the ankle against Dustin Poirier, the foot there. So I did hear something about he got like a metal rod put into his leg, into that left leg. So expect to see more kicks from Conor McGregor, especially that left kick there. So overall, that's mostly his game plan. He's going to set up that left hand most of the times. He has a very accurate left hand step back counter. He'll throw 1-2. He does overextend a little bit on the 1-2. He'll throw the left 1-2, and then he'll follow up with a 3 a little bit off balance. It's more of a shovel uppercut 3. We saw him do that against Dustin Poirier a couple of times. Actually, Poirier countering him on that strike. He does seem to be a little bit off balance when he throws that 3, but overall, those are his main strikes that he tries to go through. Whereas Michael Chandler going to be a little bit more stockier. He's going to be a little bit wider base. He's more explosive. He's going to open up orthodox. We did see in the Conor McGregor versus which fight was that? Just his opponent, Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez really struggling to close the distance. He's going to be somewhat similar build to Michael Chandler. Going to be a little bit stockier, trying to cover that distance. Michael Chandler does a good job of blitzing, where he sits down and he comes forward with a couple of rights, trying to close that distance. But again, Conor McGregor has a very nice left hand counter. So Michael Chandler going to have to be very careful in terms of how he closes the distance. Again, Conor McGregor going to have a little bit of a reach advantage in this fight. So I can see again Conor McGregor going to take the center of the cage early in the fight. Chandler going to take the outside of the cage. One thing I really noticed, well, especially okay, round one, Conor McGregor is probably going to look really fresh, really good on his feet, going to land some big shots. But Conor McGregor does his best work coming forward. He likes to come forward, pressure you, even against somebody like Khabib with the threat of the takedown. Conor McGregor had no problem coming forward, throwing some big shots against Khabib, and then Khabib struggling with the takedown. So I can see him coming forward against Chandler here. Chandler not really one to shy away, but he will take the outside of the cage. He will circle around the outside, try to land his big shots there as well. Maybe it's Chandler going for the leg kicks, but again, he's not a huge leg kicker, so I can see the first round being a little bit of a stalemate, staring contest sort of thing. That Keep that in mind. This is what I think will happen. But knowing Chandler, Chandler's been all about the money fights and the big fights. He's been on a couple a big losing streak, but he's taking these big fights and he's always bringing the fight forward. Very entertaining fighter to watch because he's always willing to engage, throw some big strikes. So if Conor McGregor comes forward and Jen Chandler wants to come forward as well, then you might see some fireworks early. But otherwise, I can see it being a striking clinic for McGregor early. I think Chandler, his best chances are to try to get the fight down to the ground. I was impressed with McGregor's takedown defense. And then we just talked about the top time there. If Chandler does get you down to the ground, he's going to maintain top control. He's going to probably be in full guard and then rain down some ground and pound there. So if Chandler does get the takedown early, it probably goes to round two. If Chandler doesn't get the fight early, it could still get to round two. Chandler can be pretty durable, taking some big shots. Again, his striking defense not the greatest. And again, McGregor has a ton of power in his fights. Most knockdowns in round one at 8, I believe, and then round number 2. The only thing is with McGregor, and he does seem to slow down as the fights go on. Again, this fight going to be at 170 pounds. The two fights before that, or three, were against Nate Diaz. He slowed down at halfway through round number 2. In the rematch against Nate Diaz, again, cardio looked a little bit better, but did slow down into rounds 3, 4, and 5. And then Donald Cerrone, that one finishing in 40 seconds. So his sample size of fighting at 170 and his cardio isn't the greatest for Conor McGregor. And one of the things I noticed in the fight tape was that a lot of the power came off of Conor McGregor's strikes. So if Conor McGregor doesn't find the finish or the knockdown early, I can see Chandler picking it up late. Chandler does seem to slow down a little bit as well. But I think a lot of the power comes off of Conor McGregor's strikes coming in at the tail end of round 2 into round 3. So, again, Chandler's going to want to keep the fight, get the fight down to the ground. Standing-wise, Chandler really has to pick his spots, how to close the distance. McGregor's very good at picking you off. He's gonna sort of bait the strikes coming in. He'll throw his he'll pop the jab a little bit, and as soon as you come forward, you come into that range. He's gonna pop that left straight, trying to knock you down with that left straight. So again, Chandler has to be very careful of how he closes the distance, whether he closes it with leg kicks, whether he mixes some takedowns, 1-2 level change into the takedowns. All very possible for Chandler here. The fight here is pretty tricky because we haven't seen Chandler for 2 years. We haven't seen McGregor for a while as well. We don't really know where their head is at, where they are physically, what they look like. You know, we've seen on social media McGregor out partying a lot. We've seen Michael Chandler training a lot. I would assume that Michael Chandler is going to be in better shape than McGregor, especially taking this fight here. So that's sort of how I see the fight going. I see the fight going, if it goes longer, I think Chandler, probably has the advantage cardio-wise. I think Conor McGregor has to probably find a finish within rounds 1 and 2, but Michael Chandler can be pretty durable. I can see him getting rocked and then getting back. He's one of those guys. He gets rocked, but he recovers quickly, and he gets rocked again. Very entertaining fight. Would not surprise me if there was some sort of gentleman's agreement where Chandler agrees that he's not going to shoot for a takedown, or as part of the stipulation of the contract, McGregor says, okay, I'll give you the fight, but it has to be a stand-up fight sort of thing. Then I could see Chandler sort of just bringing it to him, trying to go all out, and then maybe the fight ends within the first 30 seconds. But technically, and I think skill wise, I think the fight could play out a little bit longer. And I think if Chandler is defensively sound, or at least go mixes in some takedowns, has McGregor trying to defend the takedowns. Even if Chandler doesn't get the takedown right away, it's McGregor trying to defend the takedowns up against the fence. Maybe he gets taken down, he has to get back up. Anything to really wear on the cardio of McGregor. And I think if you can get McGregor out of the first round into the second, it dramatically reduces McGregor's punching power, especially at 170, especially the late notice type of fight. I just don't think McGregor's training every single day in the gym sort of thing. So again, Michael Chandler going to want to take the fight into the deeper waters. Probably, in my mind, probably tries to play it safe, tries to work in some takedowns, and then definitely can take over in the later rounds there. So that's how I see the fight going. I know there's a ton of information there, but Conor McGregor going to be the better technical striker, but never count Michael Chandler out. He's in every single fight, very entertaining fight. So let's get into my numbers now. What I like to do is I like to, again, assign a percentage to every single outcome of the fight. Gives me an idea of where the value lies, where I think the best bets lies, things like that. So sticking with it, I put Conor McGregor here on the blue side, Michael Chandler on the red side there. Conor McGregor to win by TKO. Definitely possible. I think his most likely path to victory. Most of his wins there, right? I think I said 80% of McGregor's wins are going to come from TKO. So I'm going to give McGregor maybe about 25%, 30% chance to win by TKO. I think that's about right. Conor McGregor to win by submission. I don't recall him ever attempting a submission. And the only submission I can really see that may work, but probably doesn't, is Michael Chandler shoots in for a takedown. McGregor defends a takedown by using some sort of guillotine and then catching Chandler in a guillotine. Otherwise, he's not going to be throwing up any arm bars from the bottom, triangles from the bottom, Komuros from the top. And again, he's not going to be looking for the takedown. So I'm going to put it at 0%. It's probably around 1 or 2, but I'll just leave it at 0% just to make it easy. And then Conor McGregor to win by decision. This one's tough because I think Conor McGregor has to win the first 3 rounds. The fight against Nate Diaz, man, he did win a decision, 48-47 majority decision, but that was after he won first 2 rounds, and I think he pulled out round number 4. But same sort of thing where he has to start early, he has to bank the first couple of rounds, and then find one of the last 3 rounds to win a decision. Not impossible, but just not likely. I'm going to leave it at 15%, I think, for decision. We'll move on to the Chandler side, see if we can find anything there. So, Michael Chandler to win by TKO. I think it's possible. It's probably not as much as Conor at 25%. He does hit hard into the later rounds. I want to leave it at 20%. I think a lot of Chandler wins or TKOs could be late. I think that it could come from ground and pound. And I think it could be on the feet as well. We have seen Conor normally has a decent chin, but 20% sounds about right there. Michael Chandler to win by submission. I think this is live as well. Could come from guillotine. Just I don't think Conor McGregor shooting or sticking his neck into anything there. Otherwise, if it does happen, it could be from a back take. Again, we saw in the Nate Diaz fight, we saw in the Khabib fight, when Conor McGregor gets down to the ground and he gets mounted, his default is right away to spin, give up his back, and then that's why Nate Diaz got the rear naked choke, and that's why Khabib got the neck crank. So same thing with Chandler. If you do that against Chandler, he's going to give up his back. Again, a lot of Chandler's top time was back mount there. So I could see Chandler riding the back there. I'm going to leave it at 10% to win by submission. I think it's possible, but just not likely. And then Chandler to win by decision. I think it's possible as well. I'm going to be short here because I think it's probably going to be around 15%, 20%. We'll leave it at 20% there. And now, so I'm off by 10%. I got to fill it in. So, let's beef up the Chandler, McGregor TKO. We're moving it to 30%. I think that sounds about right. And then the Chandler side to win by decision, I'm going to put 25% because I think he has the option of doing Some takedowns, 20% late. I think that's about right. Let me read it through to you. You tell me if it sounds right. Leave it in the comments below if I'm way off. But Conor McGregor to win by TKO, I have at 30% plus 233 or better. Conor McGregor to win by submission, 0%. To win by decision, I have at 15% plus 567 or better. For an overall money line of 45% plus 122 or better. On the Michael Chandler side, I have wins by TKO at 20%, plus 400 or better, win by submission at 10% plus 900 or better, and win by decision 25% plus 300 or better for a total money line of 55% or minus 122. So I do think that Michael Chandler should be a slight favorite in this fight. Um, there are a lot of intangibles, a lot of red flags, a lot of unknowns. What do these layoffs look like? There was this thing about the UFC 303 press conference. It was supposed to be in England or Dublin or something like that. McGregor had to pull out of the press conference. Um, they never really gave a reason for it. There are some rumors or rumblings that maybe McGregor is injured, trying to deal with it. Chandler's been waiting so long for the fight, so maybe McGregor comes in a little bit injured. Definitely some question marks in terms of what he looks like. He's been out partying a lot. There's clips of him in the clubs drinking and such. So Michael Chandler been in the gym. He's been training for this moment here. I'm gonna assume that Michael Chandler is gonna be in better shape. This fight being at 170, I think it's just McGregor not looking to cut weight. He did look really big again. Remember McGregor did the Roadhouse movie. He was doing some acting and stuff. I just don't think he was in the gym as much as Chandler is. So I think Chandler's gonna come in better shape. I think McGregor might be coming in compromised. So again, McGregor's best chances I think are early for round one, round two KO. But I think if it goes late, Chandler could take over. I think he has the ability to win the decision. I think he has the ways of getting the takedown into to work the decision, ground and pound submission, things like that. More ways to win. Whereas Conor McGregor really just left hand, left straight counter in rounds one or two. So. Yeah, I give the slight edge to Michael Chandler. I'm going to look up the odds here just because I haven't checked them in a while. I go over to fightodds.io. Let me see where the current lines are at. Again, this is UFC 303. We're taping this a little bit early. Conor McGregor minus 108, Chandler minus 112. So I'll plug that into the Kelly criterion. Minus 108 for McGregor and then minus 112 for Chandler. So I use 8 Kelly criterion, being a little bit more conservative. Again, I said Conor McGregor should be plus 122 or better. Currently, we're going minus 108. So Kelly criterion saying do not bet that. On the Chandler side, I said we would bet it at minus 122 or better. We're getting minus 112. So right around where I thought the line would be. Kelly criterion saying risk zero point 0.6 units. But this is the biggest fight that we've seen. Again, I went to UFC 300 in Vegas, and for some reason, these fight tickets for UFC 303 are more expensive than UFC 300. Just the name value alone for Conor McGregor, just selling tickets out. So I assume a lot of the public going to be on McGregor. A lot of the public really only knows McGregor as a UFC fighter, so he's going to be a fan favorite here. I could see that money coming in on McGregor, especially late. So if you do like the Chandler side, I wouldn't mind waiting. I think that line comes a little bit better, especially before fight time. Keep an eye on it right before fight time. You might see McGregor move into a favorite, unless some news comes out that he's injured or compromised some sort there. But yeah, I'll take the Chandler side as a slight favorite. I think he has more ways to win. But yeah, that's where my breakdown is at. If you liked any of this breakdown, or if you liked any of these stats and you're wondering where we get them from, right now you can get them available on our website, fightingstats.com/fightstats. We keep all of these stats here free to use right now. We have all these 5-pagers reports, the tail of the tape, the detailed striking, things like that. Every day goes by, our database grows with more and more stats, so check that out there. And if I do end up making a play, I will pass that over to patreon.com/fightingstats. Stats. That's where I put all of our breakdowns, our shoot for the moon parlays, things like that. You won't want to miss it. Sign up there, get first exclusive access to that. So long-winded breakdown. I apologize for it, but I am very detailed. I like to talk about every single nook and cranny there. So if you like this type of content, if you found anything useful, drop a like, subscribe there in the comments below. Let us know how we're doing. Again, my name is Artsy, and this is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. Listen to this. We just hit a massive parlay for $29,000 at UFC 297. That is one UFC after 296 where we hit a parlay for $82,000. That's back-to-back parlays. We've made $110,000. And how do we do it? We use our exclusive fighting stats, not available anywhere else. Our exclusive fighting stats gives us information, gives us a big edge over the sportsbooks, and tell us what's going to happen within the fights. We post all that information, our breakdowns, our best bets, over at patreon.com/fightingstats. Don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.